Now, the point, Chamberlain, quickly, is that there is no way you could have had this kind of range of transactions without the consent, the official consent, of the Nigeria Customs. So for the Customs Service to say that these helicopters were imported by unknown individuals and that we are conducting some kind of investigation is just nonsense. You know, the individual in Abuja said, you know, the previous administration frustrated you know, the importation of those aircrafts because of the current governor, Nyesom Wike. Nyesom Wike was just a junior minister. The president had endorsed, the national security advisor had released 15 million. Who was a junior minister to then decide what was a key national priority?
In some of the correspondence that circulated concerning the response of the governor about all of this, he also did say, quote, I went to the federal government to request for a waiver to clear helicopters, but they refused. And then he goes on to say, he then wrote the president, assuring him, no, that it was for surveillance and not for any other contrary purpose, but that they should be handed over to the Nigerian Air Force. So you say to manage, but here he says to be handed over to the Nigerian Air Force. Does it mean that the state government forfeits it to the Nigerian Air Force?
Yes, because I mean, we didn't have need for it as a commercial aircraft. Or these were not commercial aircrafts. We wanted to use them because, look, frankly, we considered these as expenditures as wasteful. Because I personally believed, even when I was not in government, I personally believed that it was, I think, much more profitable to use this kind of extensive financial resources to create jobs for over 60% of our young people in Rivers State who are not employed. If you provide job opportunities for young people, you wouldn't have the need to invest such an extensive amount of money providing this kind of military assets. You know, I remember I was sitting right here on this couch in 2012, and I was challenging the Amechi administration to spend much more money creating jobs, establishing enterprises for young people, rather than using this kind of money to provide this kind of dubious financial transactions that, you know, would eventually end up in this way. In fact, what the Nyesom Wike administration did was to manage a very bad situation. How could you allow about 10 billion naira to be wasted? Why don't we bring this thing in and then hand it over, if need be, to the Nigerian Air Force? Because they consistently, as all these documents show, they consistently denied the revalidation of the waivers. And so in these letters I just read, he wrote to the national security advisor and said, take custody of these aircrafts and use them for whatever purpose. And that is it. Now the point is, how could, in all of these, how could these transactions happen without the full consent and participation of the Nigerian Customs Service?
Just as you just mentioned the Nigerian Customs Service now, why do you think that they said that this consignment was brought in by unknown persons?
And my suspicion is that it's a messy transaction. I think if they ever historicized, that is placed within a historical context, how these aircrafts were imported, it will just show the kind of reckless, foolish expenditure, that characterized the Rotimi Amechi administration. That was why I think they wanted to save him the embarrassment, and so they tried to anonymize the sources. But it is very clear, we have taken ownership, we have the documents to show, we have correspondences that came from the Customs Service itself.
We'll take it from there when we return from the break in just a moment. Do join us again.
Barrister Achi William Obodo is still with us here in the studio. You have listened to the Commissioner for Information, Mr. Austin Tam George. I'm sure that you have your responses, but quickly, do you think that the Nigeria Customs Service was not telling all of the truth when they came out with the statement?
I'm not, I don't know the facts that they have, so I won't say whether they're telling the truth or not.
Have you seen did you see their statement?
No, I haven't seen the statement, but what I know is that Mr. Tam George is not telling the truth. First, the letter he read, he didn't also tell us what was the reason he requested, the reason the Rivers State government gave to NSC for wanting to release the aircraft to Nigerian government. What we know is that the present insecurity situation in Rivers State, they are okay by it, the Rivers State government is okay by it, and they don't want to use that equipment to fight insecurity in Rivers State. That's why they willingly gave it out to Nigerian Air Force. And they're trying to pass the blame on somebody.
But we just saw also the Nigerian customs, do a handover ceremony to the Nigerian Air Force because they claim they do not know the people who own it.
His quarrel is that because Nigerian customs say, oh, we do not know people who own it. He's not saying, he said the aircraft belongs to Rivers State. So his quarrel is Nigerian customs handing it over to Air Force. If the Rivers State government had handed it over to the Air Force, perhaps there would not have been any quarrel because that's what he imputed by his statement. But the question that we should ask, Rivers people should ask, and Nigerians should ask, is why would they want to give her that aircraft? What is the underlying reason they gave? What reason did they give for wanting to give that aircraft to federal government, other than apply it for the purpose for which it was meant? That's the question that Rivers State government needs to tell Nigerians.
Well, that's a fine place to then leave it. Then we have been speaking with Barrister Archie William Nwobodo, who is Special Assistant to former Governor Chibuike Amechi on intergovernmental matters. Beg your pardon. Who was, former assistant to former Governor Chibuike Amechi on intergovernmental matters. Well, we'll hand you over now to Lagos for the rest of the show.
Yes, indeed. Let's quickly get your direct response to the questions he raised.
Well, we've made it very clear. The Nigeria Customs was demanding as much as 9 billion naira, for as demurrage. They wanted those kind of fees to be paid, and we are saying no. Waiver was granted in 2013. I have shown you documentation here that shows that waiver was in fact granted in 2013. All we were asking for, because these assets were going to be used for pipeline surveillance and all that, not for commercial use, give us a revalidation of this waiver so that we could use them. And when the Customs Service started coming up with as much as 5 to 9 billion naira, we said no, we were going to insist on getting waivers. And when it was impossible, we said, okay, better to give these assets to the Nigerian Air Force. And that was why, in March 2015 and 2016, we wrote to them, and on the 3rd of November, they said we accept custody of these aircrafts and we use them for military purposes.
That's all. Have to
so for the Customs Service to say only 2 weeks ago that we are conducting a handover ceremony, we thought that was very dubious of them.
Dr. Austin Tam George, Commissioner for Information in Rivers State, thank you for coming on this morning. And then we did start by giving you some advisory in terms of what's going on the road, but here's another one, just in case you like to hit the road. But this is the Lagos-Ibadan Express. Remember, there was a tanker that fell off and obstructing traffic, in addition to the construction and maintenance work that was going on early on today. Before that happened before 7 a.m.
That happened before 7, and it seems to be a little more under control. The traffic is gradually moving. That will be inward or outward Lagos.
So this is the construction point.
That's where
this is along Otedola Bridge area, after a little around Berger Junction. So for those who are familiar with that route, so be advised. And that's the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And I am Gimba Umar.
And I'm Maupe Ogun. Thank you.